All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're cracking open one of the most intense and honestly misunderstood prophecies in the entire Bible. We're talking about the Day of Wrath from Revelation chapter 6. We're going to break down what it actually says and explore this really powerful interpretation that ties it directly to real historical events from the first century. You'll see why it still has such an impact. I mean, just think about that for a second. Imagine being so terrified, so completely overwhelmed that you're literally begging for mountains to fall on you just to hide from what's coming. That's the cry at the very heart of what we're talking about today. So what on earth could possibly lead to that moment? Well, to figure that out, we've got to look at what happens right before. So, the whole thing unfolds as these 7 seals are opened, and each one unleashes some form of judgment. The first 4 really set the stage for all the chaos that's about to break loose. So let's do a quick run-through of those.
First up, the first seal is opened, and out comes a white horse. Its rider gets a crown and goes out conquering and to conquer. Now, if you're looking at this through a first-century lens, this lines up with the idea of divine justice, using the Roman Empire as its instrument, to conquer nations and carry out judgment. Then a red horse shows up. This one's given a huge sword to basically take peace away from the whole earth. This is a pretty clear symbol of just pure, violent bloodshed. And historically, it points right to the brutal Jewish-Roman war that kicked off in 66 AD, when a rebellion led Rome to unleash its full military power against Israel. The third seal brings a black horse, and this one's carrying scales, which means one thing: famine. As the Roman armies were destroying all the crops, the fighting inside Jerusalem made everything 1,000 times worse. The Zealots actually burned the city's own grain supply. Food got so scarce, they had to ration it out by weight. And finally, the fourth seal unleashes this pale horse. And its rider's name? It's just Death. And he's given the power to kill with the sword, with hunger, with disease, and even by wild animals. It's basically the terrifying combination of all the horrors that came before it. Okay, so after all that sweeping devastation, the prophecy kind of zooms in. The fifth seal, which is where our focus really begins, shifts from these huge empire-clashing disasters to something deeply personal and agonizing. So who's making this plea? The text tells us it's the souls of those who are killed for the word of God. This is talking about the early Christians, the saints who were persecuted and murdered for their faith, all the way from the very beginning of the church up to Emperor Nero's horrific crackdown. And this is their cry. And you'll notice it's not just a cry of pain, it is a demand for justice. These people have paid the ultimate price for what they believe, and now they're asking God, point blank, when are you going to hold our persecutors accountable? How long? That's the question just hanging in the air. How much longer do they have to wait for justice, for vengeance? The tension here is just immense. You have the very souls of the faithful demanding an answer. And the answer they get is, well, it's both comforting and pretty chilling. They're given these white robes, which is a symbol of their righteousness, and they're told to wait just a little season. So justice is on its way, but it has to wait until the full number of their fellow believers who are also destined to be killed is complete. Their prayer has been heard. Judgment is right around the corner. So, with that promise just hanging in the air, the sixth seal is finally opened. And this is where things just go completely off the rails. The focus explodes from those quiet cries under an altar to a cataclysm that seems to be shaking the entire universe. I mean, the language here is pure apocalyptic poetry, right? A massive earthquake, the sun going dark, the moon turning blood red, stars falling out of the sky. It absolutely sounds like the physical end of the world. But is that what it's really talking about? And whatever this event is, it is so terrifying that it unites everyone in absolute fear. We're talking kings, generals, rich people, poor people, every single person. They all flee. They run for the hills, trying to hide in caves, which leads to that desperate cry we heard at the very beginning. So let's ask that question again. Was this a literal end of the world? Well, a lot of people argue that this cosmic language isn't literal at all. They say it's actually a prophecy about a massive political and social collapse. Okay, so this is the key to unlocking the whole thing. In biblical prophecy, these big cosmic events are often powerful metaphors. The sun going dark doesn't mean the actual star burned out. It means a king or an entire empire has fallen. The earth shaking, that represents the total collapse of a nation's social order. So in this symbolic language, heavens means the rulers, and earth means the nation they rule over.
And if you're looking for a perfect historical match, look no further. Right after Emperor Nero died, the Roman Empire, the world's superpower, was plunged into a vicious civil war. In one single year, 69 AD, Rome had 4 different emperors. 3 of them were violently overthrown. This was the great earthquake that shook the very foundations of the Roman world. And get this, at the exact same time, the nation of Israel was having its own political earthquake. Jerusalem was literally tearing itself apart from the inside. You had rival zealot groups murdering each other in the streets for control, they executed their own high priest, and the ruling class, people like King Agrippa, had to flee for their lives. The entire social and political structure just imploded. So all of this, the civil war tearing Rome apart, the self-destruction of Jerusalem, this was the fulfillment of that little season of waiting for the martyrs. This was it. The day of wrath had come. And that phrase, the day of wrath, it connects directly back to prophecies in the Gospels. Jesus himself had warned about coming days of vengeance, and he said they would fall upon that specific generation. Judgment was prophesied to kick off in 66 AD, and it did, right on schedule. And here's a really fascinating little detail. Jesus had given a specific warning sign. He said, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then you'll know its desolation is near. Well, in 66 AD, the Roman general Cestius Gallus did exactly that. He surrounded the city. But then, for no clear military reason, he just withdrew his troops. And that was the signal. It gave the Christians their one chance to get out of the city before the final, inescapable destruction began. Which brings us to the final, haunting question of the entire chapter. With governments collapsing, society imploding, when the great day of judgment finally arrives, who really is able to stand? It's a question that echoed with terrifying reality through the first century, and honestly, it's one that leaves us with a lot to think about today.